In 2016, millions of British citizens voted to leave the European Union with a clear objective in mind. For many, the referendum was a mandate to restrict immigration and reclaim control over the nation's borders. This chart of net migration since the vote shows the opposite of what those voters expected. Instead of a decline, the data reveals a steep climb, reaching the highest levels in the country's history. The scale of this increase is record-breaking. Following consecutive years of over 1% population growth, net migration peaked at 944,000 people in 2023 alone. This expansion isn't the result of a domestic baby boom. Birth rates in the UK have actually been falling. The growth is fueled almost entirely by the gap between long-term arrivals and departures. Brexit did not accidentally leave the borders open. It prompted a calculated shift in government strategy that has fundamentally changed the composition of the British workforce. In 2021, the government implemented a points-based system. This standardized the criteria for entry, applying the same requirements to both EU and non-EU citizens for the first time. This system effectively restricted European migration. Without visa-free movement, the number of EU citizens entering the country dropped so significantly that by 2022, the UK saw a net outflow of people back to the continent. Simultaneously, the government used this new autonomy to lower barriers in other sectors. They relaxed rules and established new pathways that made it much easier for citizens from the rest of the world to migrate to Britain. Humanitarian crises also played a role. The political crackdown in Hong Kong, the withdrawal from Afghanistan, and the invasion of Ukraine led the government to open moral pathways for refugees. By replacing low-skill European labor with a global points-managed system, the UK used migration as a tool to manage immediate economic shortages and international emergencies. Following the pandemic, the UK economy was struggling with high inflation and a severe lack of staff. Business leaders and public institutions were pressuring the government for a rapid injection of labor. Higher education was especially vulnerable. Inflation was driving up university operating costs, yet a strict price cap prevented them from charging domestic students more than £9,250 a year. To survive, universities turned to international recruitment. Because international students are not subject to the tuition cap, they became a critical revenue source. The government supported this by offering attractive 2-year post-graduation work visas. The health and social care sectors faced a similar crisis. An aging population and massive treatment backlogs created a demand for workers that the domestic market couldn't meet, leading the government to triple the number of care visas issued in a single year. These shortages extended to agriculture and construction as well. In 2022, the lack of harvesters was so severe that an estimated 60 million pounds of produce was left to rot in British fields. The total number of arrivals was further increased by policies allowing visa holders to bring family members. By 2023, dependent visas for spouses and children accounted for a significant portion of the total migration figures. This influx provided an immediate financial and operational bridge for hospitals and universities that were otherwise nearing a state of collapse. This reliance highlights a central contradiction in the British economy: record-level job vacancies existing alongside a massive, untapped reserve of domestic labor. This chart shows the NEET demographic: young people not in education, employment, or training. In the UK, this group has grown to 1 million people. It's a failure of allocation. The economy cannot bridge the gap between them and the sectors desperate for help. For many businesses, international recruitment is simply more efficient. Hiring an experienced worker from abroad is faster and more cost-effective than building and funding long-term domestic apprenticeship programs. Wage arbitrage drives this trend. For a migrant from a lower-income economy, 6 months of agricultural work in the UK can equal several years of wages in their home country, making even difficult conditions highly attractive. For UK citizens, the perspective is different. Physically demanding, low-wage roles in care or construction often lack social status or clear paths for progression, causing many to stay out of these sectors entirely. Access to a steady supply of experienced international labor acts as an economic painkiller. It suppresses the immediate symptoms of a labor shortage, but it also lessens the pressure on businesses and the government to invest in training the domestic workforce. By using migration as a quick fix for labor gaps, the UK has avoided the difficult task of repairing its internal skills pipeline, leaving a generation of young people without a clear path into the workforce. At the top of the economic scale, media reports have frequently suggested that a millionaire exodus is underway, with high taxes allegedly driving wealthy entrepreneurs to leave the country. The fiscal stakes are high, as the top 1% of earners contribute 28% of all income tax. A significant departure of this group would leave a massive hole in public finances. But the data behind these reports is often provided by agencies that profit from wealth migration. Academic research suggests that high earners are less responsive to tax changes than these headlines imply, and the methodology used to forecast a mass exodus has been widely criticized. Investment data paints a more stable picture. London remains the world's fourth largest tech ecosystem, and more than half of the UK's fastest-growing companies were founded by people born outside the country. While the flight of the wealthy remains speculative, a more measurable shift is appearing in migration policy. Recent restrictive reforms are expected to cause net migration to fall sharply, potentially reaching zero by the end of the decade. Current modeling suggests that if the UK moves to net zero migration without fixing its internal labor gaps, the overall economy could be 3.6% smaller by 2040. Britain's economic future depends on its ability to repair its domestic skills pipeline before these external labor sources are withdrawn.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to World Economy for more insightful content.